So we're going to go straight to our next session now, which is another really fascinating one. And it looks at how international educators can help to combat complex environmental issues in international programs. And we have a range of very different perspectives here. So I'd love to introduce our next group of speakers. So we have Jolise Volp from Erasmus Plus and Annemarie Willemsen from Nuffic in the Netherlands, and also Jonathan Dykes from Green Standard Schools. So actually, we won't be having a Q&A session at the end of this one because we didn't have enough time to squeeze it in, but Jolise popped on screen there, so maybe we'll just ask all the other speakers to we were going to do it afterwards. I think we'll do it just now. Jonathan, Jolise and Annemarie, if you're there, could you just come on and wave to say hello so that everyone knows that you are there? And I'd like to acknowledge and thank you very much for your time here. So they're here for the live Q&A, and they very kindly made themselves available to be in the networking session later too. So if you do have questions for them that we don't manage to cover in the presentation, that's your chance. Okay, so thanks everyone, and we'll go straight into the next session 3 session.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our presentation, Creating a Greener Erasmus+. My name is Jolise Volp. I'm a Program Administrator for Primary and Secondary Education at the National Agency for Erasmus+ in the Netherlands. Next to my daily tasks, I am part of a working group focused on sustainable development in the internationalization field, along with colleagues from Nuffic.
Hi everyone, I'm one of those colleagues. My name is Annemarie Willemsen. I'm working as a communications advisor for Nuffic. I'm mainly involved in projects in higher education, like internationalization at home and in international institutional cooperation projects, often led by our Netherlands education support offices. Besides that, I'm part of a group that focused on how Nuffic can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. In this session today, we will go into the dilemmas of internationalization and its educational benefits on the one hand, and environmental considerations on the other hand. Nuffic is the Dutch National Agency for Internationalization in Education. At Nuffic, we work on a national level and support education institutions in all sectors with their internationalization activities. I'm very happy to share with you today that we have recently decided to officially embrace the United Nations Global Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Of course, our field of work is inseparably connected to the global goals. And in many of our activities and programs, we are already creating a positive impact on various SDGs. By embracing those SDGs as the substantive umbrella for Nuffic's social policy, we can now focus on improving our positive impact on the goals. But you're tuned in here today to hear more about the practicalities about how to incorporate sustainability in internationalization programs on a European level. Jolise will tell you more about that. I would just like to say the Dutch National Agency Erasmus Plus is part of Nuffic and has launched a few sustainable initiatives, both in their program as well as within their own organization. Jolise?
Yes, thank you, Annemarie. Where tourism is about traveling for recreational purposes, internationalization through Erasmus Plus facilitates and promotes traveling for educational purposes. Through Erasmus Plus, it is for teachers to follow courses abroad, for pupils to go on school exchange programs, for students to gain international experience, and Erasmus Plus also supports transnational partnerships that focus on creating innovation or exchanging good practices. The overall aim of the program is to boost skills and employability, especially among young people throughout Europe. In every aspect of Erasmus+, traveling abroad is one of the key elements. Every participant in Erasmus+ projects seeks to improve their knowledge, experience, or cooperation possibilities beyond their own country's borders. This, however, creates a dilemma, because Erasmus+ is also focusing more and more on environment and climate change. And, as we all probably know, traveling by air especially, poses a heavy tax on the environment. So, how is Erasmus Plus dealing with this negative side effect? Since the official launch of the current Erasmus Plus program in the year 2014, Erasmus Plus has included environment and climate change as one of the possible topics that could be addressed by project proposals. In 2020, the Erasmus Plus program guide listed environmental and climate goals among the main priorities for the selection of strategic partnership project proposals. It is our hope that this trend will be continued in the new Erasmus Plus program for 2021 to 2027. And there are also other ways where Erasmus Plus in the Netherlands is becoming greener. Key to this path is promote and give incentive. At the Dutch National Agency for Erasmus Plus in The Hague, we use our wide reach on a national level by regularly highlighting good practices on our social media, website, and through our newsletter. By doing so, we hope to inspire others to rethink their usual way of doing things by promoting good practices. We also emphasize the importance of environmental aspects during information meetings, where we ask possible project applicants to reflect on the way they shape their projects and the way they are planning to travel. Recently, a suggestion that has been made is to create a top-up system for Erasmus Plus projects, where participants decide to travel in a more environmentally conscious way. International train tickets can be more expensive than budget airline fares. In the case that the more sustainable way of traveling is more expensive, the environmentally conscious route is facilitated by this top-up. An unforeseen and possibly positive outcome of the global COVID-19 crisis is that all over Europe, people have been forced to think outside the box when it comes to digitizing education or creating online meetings. Due to travel and restrictions, many people in Europe have discovered the possibilities of virtual meetings and online classrooms. The seed has been planted that in some cases, a digital exchange can also be a good option. Of course, it would be hypocritical if we as Nuffic and the Dutch Erasmus Plus National Agency do not practice what we preach. Therefore, we have lately launched a few sustainable initiatives. An example of this is policy making within the Department of Erasmus Plus at the Dutch National Agency. Firstly, we believe that the first step lies in preventing environmental impact. When travel restrictions will lift again, we'd like to ask employees who consider going abroad for work, is it truly necessary to travel, or is there another way about it? To give an example, it would not be in line with sustainable goals to travel more than 1,000 kilometers back and forth to give a 5-minute speech, when it is also possible to send in a pre-recorded speech or a video. Then, if traveling is important for work, there will be regulations in place. For example, all trips up to 750 kilometers and under 8 hours of traveling, we will ask employees to travel by train. You can see this clearly in the distance band on the map. Exceptions can always be made based on the employee's personal circumstances, but this policy forces us to rethink the way we travel before booking a flight. In addition, we emphasize the pros of traveling by train. Of course, the environmental impact of the trip is reduced significantly, but train traveling has other perks. Usually, there are less transfers and is often easier to do some work while traveling by train when compared to traveling by airplane. And where travel is still in place, we compensate for any CO2 emissions that are made. The Dutch National Agency has calculated greenhouse emissions for the period of 2014 to 2019 and compensated CO2 through planting trees. If or when you decide to take in place employees' travel regulations, please keep in mind to highlight the benefits and to make the regulations clear and doable. Back to you, Annemarie.
Yes, thank you, Jolise. Today we have talked about examples focused on sustainability. Our organizations are also developing new policies focused on creating a more diverse and inclusive organizations, for example, and how to create more equal partnerships. All in all, we like to stress two core ideas: promote and incentivize. In our experience, small steps have eventually led to concrete action. In our organization, various separate initiatives have led to a greater organization-wide impact, which is, of course, now solidified in organization-wide environmental policy. In other words, every small step counts, and small steps combined can lead to something big in the end. We invite you to think about ways you can make your work environment and work-related travel more environmentally conscious. Thank you for your attention, and perhaps we'll see you in one of the Q&As.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Dykes, and in this video I'm going to talk about a new association I've started called Green Standard Schools. I'm going to explain why I decided to set it up and outline how it works. But let's start with a little history. Back in 2007, I was working as director of a large language school in Spain, and I decided it was time to start doing something serious to lessen the impact our business was having on the environment. So I started to investigate what organizations offered environmental accreditation, and in the end I decided that the best option was the European Union's Eco-Management and Audit Scheme, or EMAS for short. Now, obtaining EMAS accreditation proved to be rather more challenging than I had anticipated, but we persevered and made it in the end. And as director of the first private language school anywhere to achieve EMAS registration, I was invited to give talks at various international conferences, including a talk at the European Parliament in Brussels during an event called the World Green Design Forum. I explained what EMAS was meant to do and how it worked. And I talked about the need to safeguard future generations, using a rather cute photo of my daughter to make the point. Sadly, the impact of my pioneering leadership in environmental sustainability was negligible. Perhaps that's because the environment wasn't such a hot topic back then. But we plugged away, and after 5 years we even received this bronze certificate in recognition of our dedication to the cause. However, as time went by, the costs of maintaining our school on the EMAS register became more of an issue. We had to employ a part-time environmental officer, we had to pay for 2 external audits each year, and it became more and more apparent that the whole system wasn't really designed for small service companies like ours. Then, a couple of years ago, when environmental sustainability started to become more of an issue both in the media and in everyone's thoughts, I had what seemed to be a bright idea. Why not design an environmental accreditation scheme specifically for language schools? I understood the issues, I knew the industry, I knew what people might be able to afford. So I managed to persuade a number of colleagues to help me develop the idea, and that work has led to this presentation of our new association, which, as you know, is called Green Standard Schools. Now, the aims of our association can be summarized as follows. Firstly, we want to lessen the impact that language teaching has on the environment by developing a set of policies and practices that language teaching institutions can adopt and adhere to. Secondly, we want to award accreditation against these policies and practices to providers of language education anywhere. And thirdly, we want to develop a series of pedagogical resources designed to encourage environmental sustainability in language teaching. So how does it work? Well, a school first has to register its interest on our website. The next step is to complete an application form, which is divided into 2 sections. The first section asks for standard data about the school, contact details, range of courses offered, that sort of thing. The second section focuses on the school's current environmental practices. This second section consists of a series of 48 yes-no questions that cover a wide range of environmental areas, as you can see listed here on the slide. Now let's look at a few of these questions in more detail. The first question in the energy section is, do you monitor and record the amount of energy you use in your school? If you answer yes, you then have to demonstrate how you do this. Your evidence could be a simple Excel file listing your energy bills and adding up the number of kilowatts you use each year. The second question is, have you undertaken to reduce your total energy consumption each year? Again, if you answer yes, you're asked to provide evidence of this commitment. Now let's jump ahead to the travel section. Question 30 on the form asks, do you know how many flights your students take each year in order to study with you? Now, we all know that international education involves flights that contribute to global warming, but we obviously don't want to discourage students from coming to study with us. So the way around this is to offset the carbon emissions our international students generate. And the first step in that process is to know how much carbon we're responsible for. And question number 35 on the form is from the teaching and training section and asks, do you systematically include environmental issues in the teaching syllabus of the majority of your courses? Again, if you answer yes, you have to provide evidence. The language teaching industry reaches millions of students all over the world every year. So we have a golden opportunity to discuss environmental issues with a huge number of people and perhaps influence how they think and behave. Each of the 48 questions on the application form generates a score, and the total number of points available is 200. Schools need to obtain at least 130 points in order to be eligible for accreditation. Now, let's quickly summarize the main benefits for schools. Well, first and foremost, green standard schools will be making a serious and verifiable contribution to environmental sustainability, and that should be motivating enough. But there are other benefits. Accreditation should also provide schools with a powerful new marketing tool. So if someone from Spain is thinking of taking an English language course in the UK, for example, they may be persuaded to choose one school over another if one of the schools on their shortlist has environmental accreditation and the others don't. Similarly, it may be easier for schools to recruit and retain key staff if they're able to demonstrate their environmental credentials. And green standard schools will also have access to a range of digital teaching resources specifically designed to help them integrate environmental issues into their classes. Now, like most associations, the more members we have, the more powerful our voice will be. So if you operate a language school, please have a look at our website and think about joining us. The costs are small and the benefits, both for schools and for the environment, could be significant. That's it from me. Thank you very much for listening.
I love the range of actions, the range of examples that we're seeing here today about the different forms of climate action that we can take, be that through policy or regulation or motivation. So as I mentioned earlier, we don't have time, unfortunately, with that panel for Q&A, but I can see that your questions are coming in thick and fast, so keep them coming.